Hey, welcome to Half the Battle. Well, as promised, we're celebrating 10 years of the show by taking a look at one of my favorite G.I.Joe toys.
So meet the H.I.S. tank. This vehicle was released in 1983 with all original parts.
And I absolutely love this thing, but boy does it look goofy. Oh, search your feelings, you know it to be true.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a term for it, but it happens a lot. Something that's weird and funny when you first encounter it, but then just becomes normal after you get used to it. For example, the first time you learn of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's like, haha, she's a valley girl called Buffy that has to fight vampires. Very funny. But after a while, it just becomes like, oh yeah, she's Buffy. She kicks ass. Or take Benedict Cumberbatch. When you first hear the name, you'll laugh at it, but after a while, yeah, it's just the guy that plays Doctor Strange. You get to know something so well, it just becomes normal.
Hell, this show is probably a good example of that. When somebody first sees me, they probably go WTF, but after a few months, does it even register?
And it's the same thing with the H.I.S. tank. Show this to anybody that's never seen it or isn't familiar with G.I. Joe, and they'll say how weird it is. But it's become so iconic for the brand, we all just go, yup, that's a H.I.S. tank.
Okay, those are a lot of words to say that it looks goofy, but perfectly normal at the same time.
By the way, the H.I.S. was one of the first vehicles Cobra got, as 1983 was the first year they got vehicles at all. The Joe started out in 1982 with a cool range of material, but Cobra had to wait a year. This was probably due to the very concept of Cobra being a late addition to the toy line.
Yeah, when Hasbro came up with a real American hero, Cobra wasn't a part of that.
It wasn't until Marvel, who were working on the comic, pointed out these guys probably needed someone to fight, so there may not have been time to design and produce vehicles for the bad guys in 1982.
Okay, so, the H.I.S. tank.
It has a very simple, elegant color scheme. It's just black unless you count the decals and the colorless canopy. It's the Snake Eyes version 1 of Cobra vehicles, as that didn't have any paint applications either.
And it works!
It doesn't need any more colors. In fact, they would take away from the vehicle. The red of the decals make it absolutely perfect. Oh, and just to be complete, later mail-in versions of the toy did come with white stickers, which also looked fine.
Let's move on to playability.
There's the cockpit with room for one figure, as well as a turret with room for one more. Okay, technically you can put more than one figure in the turret, but I hope they like each other because it's gonna get pretty damn intimate. Lastly, there's room for two figures on the back kept in place with footbags. The turret can swivel around 360 degrees, and the guns can elevate a little less than 90 degrees. Beneath the tracks there are a set of wheels, so the toy can actually move. Lastly, there's a tow hook, so it can drag other vehicles behind it, like the H.I.S.P.
All in all, more than enough fun stuff for kids.
Now, this vehicle does have some drawbacks, and they have to do with age and wear and tear. The canopy can get discolored, turning it sorta brownish, so it has its own form of yellowing plastic. And the gun's elevation mechanism uses very frail pins that can break, causing the gun to not stay up. And this isn't because the toy is almost 40 years old. That damage to the guns happened back in the 80s too.
There is a very simple solution to this problem though.
You can cram some aluminum foil in the mechanism that'll get it up again and keep it erect.
Why yes, there probably was a better way to phrase that, but like I said last week, when you click on one of my videos, you know you're gonna get dick jokes.
Well, I can't avoid this any longer. We do have to talk about the unique look of the H.I.S. The triangle-shaped tracks, the elevated cockpit, and the glass canopy. It looks so weird, and yet I absolutely love the look, and it really deserves to be called iconic. Overall, it's a great vehicle, and every G.I. Joe collector should have at least one version of it.
Since we're only talking about this toy today, it's time to talk about the character.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room that I mostly avoided during the toy section. This thing has a glass canopy. That doesn't seem like a very safe feature for a tank to have. It's like a screen door on a submarine.
Yeah, two things about that.
First, the blueprints call it a shell-proof tinted canopy, so apparently it can withstand heavy fire. Yeah, doesn't really look like it can, does it?
Second, the H.I.S. tank isn't actually a tank.
Yeah, H.I.S. stands for High Speed Sentry, and nowhere on the front of the box, nowhere on the back of the box, nowhere on the file card for the driver, or even the blueprints is it called a tank. Oh sure, they retcount this later. In fact, the first mention of a tank is on the file card of the H.I.S.S. driver, but speaking strictly about this toy, it ain't a tank. It's a battle vehicle, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. The only other thing the packaging tells us is the guns are Diablo cannons. Again, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean.
So, did the H show up in other media? Yeah, I guess you could say that.
It showed up in the cartoon straight from the first miniseries and was a mainstay for most of the Sunbow run, though it did get less featured as newer toys like the Stun came out. When it comes to the comics, the H.I.S. first shows up in issue 11 and they are called tanks there, straight from the get-go. The first significant contribution to the plot a H.I.S. tank makes is in issue 16, where Major Blood uses one to try and assassinate Destro, only to be stopped by the Baroness who ends up inside the thing as it explodes, taking her out of the comic for a while. In fact, Baroness doesn't have much luck with the things as she ends up strapped to one during the Cobra Civil War.
One interesting thing about the H.I.S. in the comic and cartoons was that they took a lot of liberty with what it could do compared to the toy.
Need to fit 2 people in the cockpit? No problem. More people in the turret? Sure. Just an open canopy with 1 or 2 sections of glass? Here you go. People carrier in the back? Why, of course. Now, to be fair, most vehicles get embellished like that in the comics and cartoons, but it's very blatant with the H.I.S. tank.
Still, if it helps it being in more stories, I can't complain.
And that was the very first H.I.S. tank. There have of course been many more versions, but this video is about the OG.
In conclusion, thanks, I love it!
It's iconic and there are toys made of it to this very day, with, at the time this video comes out, there being a transforming Megatron version coming out, as well as a HasLab large version for 6-inch figures. With so many versions out there, you owe it to yourself to get at least one.
Stay tuned for some more cameos after the credits. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing?
You're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best around.
Greetings, Timmer. This is Steve from G.I.Joe Berg. On behalf of the G.I.Joe Berg lads and all of the Berg Force, I'd like to wish you a very happy anniversary. Congratulations on this epic milestone, and thank you for your insight, for your consistency, for your humor, and of course, for giving me an excuse to have a toast at noon on a weekday. Happy anniversary, buddy.
Hey there, Timmer. This is Rob Vegas, and I am checking in from Melbourne, Australia, and I'm here to give you a big shout out and shouting it out loud like the song. And I just wanted to say congratulations for 10 years on YouTube. That is awesome. Your videos are amazing and always entertaining and inspiring. And I wouldn't have started my show without yours, so thank you kindly. And looking forward to the next 10 years, mate. And hopefully I can catch up with you for some of those icy cold Belgian beers. Anyway, all the best, keep up the great work, and thank you kindly, sir. Cheers from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks, mate.